Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this evening, Setting the Course for True North. This is a CCI-sponsored webinar. We're so glad you're here to join us. So a couple housekeeping details before we get started today. We are recording this webinar, and we will have this available on our website. It'll be on our YouTube channel in just a few short days. You may submit questions via the chat feature, the questions box that can be found on the pop-out in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We will be hosting a question and answer segment at the end of this webinar. We will also answer your questions appropriately. If you need additional support or information, have additional questions, please feel free to contact Dr. James Stabinsky at jstabinsky@cc-institute.org. So I am Kristen Edmonds. I am the CNR Coaches Coordinator here at Competency and Credentialing Institute. And joining me this evening is Dr. James X. Stabinsky, the Chief Executive Officer at CCI and a faculty member at Nova Southeastern University. So I'm going to pass it over to Jim now to get us started.
All right, thanks, Kristen. So I'm Jim Stabinsky. I am the CEO of CCI, but I'm also I have had a lot to do with the True North process for a number of years now, and among the most knowledgeable of the CCI staff regarding this program. So Kristen and I will do this webinar. We're going to have it recorded, but we are available to assist you with your application. So here's our objectives. We'll talk to you about the components of the True North application. We'll provide an overview of the evaluation process, and then we'll go over some common questions related to the True North application. As Kristen said, use your chat box, ask questions whenever it suits you, and we will answer all the questions and stay on until all the questions are answered. Sometimes it works well, though, that we can answer your question as we're doing the webinar. So just ask when you have them, and Kristen will track those and we'll answer them for you. So let's get started. First, the True North application. These are the sections, and this is the distribution of the points. So we're going to talk about each of these sections in turn, but this is the big breakdown. So the 20 points on workforce statistics, we'll describe those in a minute, but that's essentially a ratio of your certified staff to all of your staff. That is computed for you, and when we do compute that, you're basically ranked against everyone that put in an application. So that's basically a matter of how many people applied and how great they've been doing at certification. That one, though, once you give us your numbers, we just add that into your score, or place that into your scorecard, and then we move on to these other sections, which we're going to discuss in more detail. So the workforce statistics, let's go back. There we are. Thanks, Kristen. So workforce statistics, 20 points. So for this, here's your calculation. You need to first determine how many nurses in your department are eligible to take these exams. So let's use this example. Let's say you have 50 nurses in your department, but 10 of those nurses are on orientation, or they've just completed orientation. They have yet to achieve 2 years in the operating room. They are not eligible to take the exam. So if, with that example, 50 total nurses, 10 of them do not yet have 2 years experience, the total number that you have eligible to take these exams would be 40. So remember, when you do this calculation, first determine how many nurses in your department are eligible to take the exam. They must have 2 years experience. So 2 years, 2,400 hours. First, determine that number. Then you'll need to count up the total number of people in your department that hold CNOR or CSSM. And then you'll do the division and divide the second number by the total number that are eligible. Now, it is possible that you have someone that holds both CNOR and CSSM. Even if they hold two certifications, that counts as one. So let's go over the example that we have right here on the screen. Let's say the total number of staff, you took out the ones not yet eligible. The total number on your staff that are eligible to take the exam are 32. Then you tally up that you have 26 CNORs and one CSSM, a total of 27. 27 divided by 32 is 84 times 100. 84% of your eligible staff are certified. That is the number that you will report. This frequently, there are a lot of questions here. So if you have any questions about this calculation, just send me an email, you can call me, and we'll work through it together. Now, keep in mind, we're only going to ask you for this number at a point in time. If you have a bunch of people eligible to take the exam and they're going to test in September, October, November, you may want to wait to as close as you can to the deadline before you do your calculation. So please bear that in mind. We're only asking you for this calculation at one point in time. So this, all right, letters of endorsement. This is the second part of the scoring. This is the scoring rubric for those letters. So what we're asking for is 2 letters of endorsement, one from the chief nursing officer, one from the manager or director of surgical services. So if you're director of surgical services, chief of surgery, something on that order, let's say that's a surgeon. That is the person you want the letter from. This is the scoring rubric. We do actually check this. So grammatical errors, spelling errors, things like that, there will be points taken off for that. So this is what we're looking for. The ideal letter, they would not be form letters. So if we were to get the same letter from the CNO and the same one from the director of surgical services, and it's clear that they're just a form letter and you just put a different signature block, you'll lose points. We want original letters, and it's quite possible that a member of the staff will have to do the draft of the letter. We get it, but they should be 2 different letters, and they need to speak to the support of certification either by that individual, how the hospital supports, how the department supports. That should be in the letter. They give us specific examples, and please check them, spell check, punctuation errors, etc., and make sure it's a signed letter with their signature block on it. All right, so 2 letters, and what you'll do is you'll send us those files, a PDF scan, and then you just insert them into your application. But on all of these items, on our website, on the TrueNorth application, we actually give you the scoring rubric. So please check those. This is exactly what the judges use, and they will check off your letter against these criteria. Rewards and recognition. That breaks down into 4 categories, but that's the second part of the scoring. So now we have subcategories, 3A through E, and we will discuss each one. I will tell you though, on a scoring rubric, on these examples that we give you, these are, the judges will go through your application, and the only thing we have to work with, we're not going to your website, anything like that, social media. All we have to work with is what you write and submit to us. They will go through your application, just what you've written, and check off to see if you've mentioned these specific items. Again, these are in the scoring rubric. So let's go through each of these categories in turn, and let me show you some examples. So 3A, evidence of recognition activities. What you are doing at your facility to recognize certified nurses and what they're doing. And again, on the scoring rubric, we give you examples. Do you have a newsletter that mentions certified nurses, those people that were newly certified, those that recertified, that sort of thing? When you have Certified Nurses Day or Perioperative Nurses Week, do you have a poster that recognizes those nurses? Do you have events like an annual recognition dinner, a luncheon, a breakfast, we recognize newly certified nurses? That's what we're looking for. The other thing I will tell you is, when in doubt, put it in your application. We cannot give you credit if there's no mention of it. You could be doing great things, but the only thing the judges have to work with is what you write into that application. The other thing I should tell you is, all of these sections have a word limit, and we are very tight on the word limit. If we say that you have 500 words to describe all of the recognition activities, if you've done it, make mention of it somewhere, but at 500 words, it will get truncated, so it cuts off. So you may have had a great closing statement that really sums it up nicely. If that's words 501 to 525, the judges will never see it, because at 500, it's done. My advice is to do all of your writing in MS Word documents, check them, do the word count, really refine them, have other people check them, go over this, and then when you're satisfied and you have all these statements written out and saved into a document, then do your application and do a cut and paste of that carefully crafted, counted document and put that into your application. But again, we have the scoring rubrics online, and those rubrics list the examples. A very efficient way to do this, go right down the scoring rubric, and if you have those items, you're doing those things, you have a newsletter, make sure you mention that in your narrative within that 500-word limit. 3B, organizational recognition, facility programs. We want you to describe facility programs that support certified nurses. Again, examples are on the scoring rubric, which are on our website, but this is where you make mention of things like clinical ladders. Do you get pay raises when people become certified? Is there an annual bonus for certification? Reimbursement for prep courses? All of these sorts of things we covered in category 3B. Again, a 500-word limit, and I would remind you, when in doubt, if it fits, if it's not specifically cited in the scoring rubric, please write it down. The judges will search hard to see if there's anywhere that they can give points for your accomplishments, but the only thing we have to work with is what you submit in your application. Perioperative department recognition, programs in place within your department that support certified nurses. We have a number of programs here at CCI, and again, on a scoring rubric, work your way down the rubric and see which one of these you do. The other thing is, if you are not doing them today and you see them on a scoring rubric, you can put these programs in place. So let's say that your facility, you were not aware of this program, and you see the word CCI Strong. You could, and you realize that we actually meet those criteria. You can get those things done, achieve that recognition, sign up for things like the Take Two program or You could initiate a perioperative journal club, put them in place. That's the reason why we share with you the scoring rubrics. We're trying to show you the best practices that we know of, that past winners, great applications, things that they've done. Those are the things that are in the scoring rubric. So you can build your support for certification by using the scoring rubric, putting those into place, and then just putting notes of what you've accomplished, what's in place now when you write your application, put those there. So category 3C, there's other examples on the website in the rubric, but these are things like the CCI Take Two program, CCI Strong, all of those are included in there. Finally, we have category 3E, and this is worth 4 points. If there's anything else you're doing that doesn't obviously fit into another category, or perhaps you're doing so much great stuff that you build up all of your other categories, you reach your word limit, and you've still got good stuff to talk about, you can place that in category 3E, other achievements, and that's worth a total of 4 points. We often find that that organizations do not put anything in this blank. I would urge you, if you have any doubt at all of whether this is noteworthy, whether you can earn points, put it in this category. If it doesn't fit anywhere else, use this category. The other thing I will tell you is on the scoring rubric, let's say it's in category 3D and we talk about the CNOR Strong program and you're not participating, you don't need to speak to it. If you're not doing it, you don't have evidence there, there's no need to speak to it. So making a statement of, you know, we believe very strongly, we think CNOR Strong is a great program, but you're not actually doing it, you can spare us that. You're not going to get any points for putting a statement in that you support it, but don't do it. So keep that in mind. If you're not doing it, if you're planning to do it, you don't need to, I would not use part of your word limit to make that statement, because that statement, we're hoping to do it in the future, never could quite pull it off. That won't earn you any points. I would save your word limit to cover something else. All right, here is the biggest category, and this is the one, if you write well, this is where you can really bring your point total up. The impact of certification is worth 40 points, and what we want you to do is explain the so what. So facts and figures, statistics, we have so many nurses certified, that is a great thing. But what we want you to explain in this category is, how did those certified nurses apply what they know, use their expertise, how did they affect positive changes in patient and nursing outcomes? And it can be either one. So let's look at some examples. So you get 1,000 words to use here. So for some context, that would be the equivalent of a short editorial that you would see in your ARN journal. So you've got a fair amount to work with here. And the other thing is, I will tell you about these applications, especially here in the impact of certification. We do not grant waivers. People do call us and they'd say, oh, can I send you a picture to put in our application? You'll really get it if you'll allow us to do that. There's no waivers for that. This is the application process. It's essentially a written application. You can't send in portfolios, scrapbooks, newspaper clippings. You only get what you can describe. But in here, you get 1,000 words to describe the impact what your nurses do. We would like specific examples, measurable outcomes, benchmarks. This is where we'd like to see facts and figures, statistics, etc. And this is things that the certified nurses have done. So, an example, let's say that your nurse educator is a CNOR, and in the 3-year period that we're talking about, 3 years and a little more, she brought on, this nurse educator oriented 12 brand new nurses to the OR, and some of those nurses went on to test for CNOR. And they were oriented using the ARN standards, things like that. Those are accomplishments. And because of the knowledge that she gained from the CNOR certification exam and a research mechanism, she imparted that knowledge and enhanced your orientation program. And you can make a logical connection and explain how being a certified nurse helped that or facilitated that. That's the sort of thing we'd like to hear about. Accomplishments from your CCI champions or coaches. Let's say they presented at a conference, they had a poster at a professional meeting, they wrote an article, even for your state nurses association, they were in journal, anything like that, or manager, or Today Live, any of those publications, that's what should be in here. If they are part of a quality improvement, quality assurance committee, an evidence-based practice committee, the value analysis committee, how about the accomplishments of that committee? Research performed by certified nurses. Results of employee engagement surveys. Let's say that the certified nurse on your staff was in charge of addressing issues that were raised in the employee engagement survey. They developed an action plan, and now your scores are up 20% over where they were 2 years ago. And a certified nurse worked on that project. That would be the sort of thing you could describe here. Bear in mind, it does not have to be exclusively a certified nurse. You could have an evidence-based practice council that's multidisciplinary. Some of the nurses are CNORs and CSSMs, some are not, but you did have certified nurses work on that committee that you could cite. And you could use those examples because certified nurses were part of that work. Again, when in doubt, just bring it up, write it down somewhere. The judges are very good at going through this information and getting down to the essence, as long as you write something about it. All right, steps in the application process. First step, go on the website, review the application instructions, and then if you have any questions, you can send me an email or you can call CCI and I'll be glad to set an appointment and talk to you about putting together your application. Very early, I would start working those letters of support, often with those senior-most members of your organization, the chief nursing officer, senior nursing executive. It may take a little time. You have to go see their administrative assistant. You may have to put together a draft of the letter. They may want a meeting with you to discuss the letter and this application. You may have to do all of that. So start those early. Then I would start making a list of all of the accomplishments in your department and those certified nurses, all of your programs. Go to the scoring rubric, go down the list, and check off all of those things that you've accomplished and that exist within your department. Take notes, and then begin writing your document. I would set each of these up as a separate entry. Your documentation, your 500-word limit for category 3A, 1 paragraph, 1 section. 3B, same thing. Check each one of those, do the word count, and then assemble them into one document. Once you have your letters in hand, you've done your calculation about the number of certified nurses, and you have your letters in hand, and those letters, you'll need to PDF scan them because they're going in as attachments. When you have all of that assembled, and you've already looked at the application, then it's time to sit down and do the application. If you have all of these things in place, it will take you, it's going to take a little time, say a couple hours to cut and paste it all in there, check it, all of that. If for some reason you're interrupted, you can save and come back to it. And if there's any trouble with the mechanics of using the system, just call us and we'll help you with that. Remember, when you do your documentation, this is a defined time period. What you are documenting is for the time period January 1st of 2014 until the day you put in that application in 2017. That's 3 years and a few months. Do not document. You know, you may have had someone who presented at ARN Surgical Conference and Expo in 2012. There are no points for that. We only document January achievements, accomplishments, things in place, January 1st of 2014 until the day you put in that application. So here's how the scoring happens. There's a committee of judges. There are CCI staff members in that committee. There are CCI board of directors on that committee. That is appointed by the president of the CCI board of directors, and they will review and evaluate the applications, and they will choose the award recipients. We do sometimes have runner-ups, but there will be one winner, and that will be announced in January of 2018. And Kristen, help me out here. I believe the deadline for the application is November 1st?
That is correct. November 1st, 2017 will be the deadline.
Okay, so November 1st is your deadline. There's no provision for extensions. If you call us on October 30th and say, I'm thinking about doing this, can I have an extension? It's not very likely that'll be granted. To be fair to everyone, we have word limits, we have criteria. We do this to standardize, so there's no unfair advantage, and we're basically looking at the same materials from each organization that submits. So we will do the judging in a period November and December, and then we will announce the winner in January. If after submitting your application you would like feedback, we will set appointments in January, February, whatever suits your schedule, and we will go over your application, go over your score, and then we will give you feedback on how you might strengthen your application should you want to submit next year. And those appointments can be set up once we announce the winner. The online application is already open. You have until 11:59 p.m. on November 1st. We cannot score, they would not be competitive anyway, but we cannot score incomplete or partial submissions. They won't be accepted. And please remember, we are very serious about the word limits, and it actually cuts off. If we say it's 500 words, it's 500 words, and word 501 and anything past that will be cut off and truncated. Remember, you can only speak to activities and accomplishments that happened or are in place January 1st of 2014. A couple points though, and we've already had people send in questions. So let's say that you had an employee that did some great stuff. They were a certified nurse. They did some great stuff in 2015, 2016, but they were promoted. They're no longer working in your department. If they were a certified nurse and they accomplish those things in 15 and 16. If they're no longer with you, those you can count. However, if they've left the organization, you cannot count them as on your tally for being a certified nurse because they're no longer your facility. But you can make note of their accomplishments. Just because the individual that did great work for you moved on to another position in the facility, if they did that work in this time frame, you can put it in your application. And again, we will announce the winner January of 18. If your facility is the winner, we will call you early. We'll make the public announcement in January, but if you're the winner, you'll receive a phone call, and we'll give you the good news. We'll start all the recognition activities and planning, etc., in place, and then we'll make the official announcement in January. This is the link to, let's go back, sorry. All right, this is the link to our homepage. Here will be a link to filling out the application, instructions, the scoring rubrics, FAQs. There'll be a webinar, this recording of this webinar, and a blog post and advice on putting together your application. In addition to that, we have CCI staff, Kristen and I, will gladly talk to you about your application. We would appreciate getting your questions early. If you have questions on your mind right now after this presentation, send them to me on my email, and we'll help you out as quickly as we can. We're here to help you achieve your goal of recognizing your staff. That's, again, here's my email, and I will be glad to answer your questions as they come up. So at this point, that concludes all of our materials, and we will take questions as you have them. We'll answer them.
And just as a
Kristen,
reminder, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to remind everyone that that chat feature is found in the pop-up that can be found in the lower right-hand corner of their screen. So go ahead and type your questions in there, and we're happy to answer those.
And Kristen, if I do have a couple of questions that have come up as I've talked to facilities that are applying, and they've sent these in, or these are the ones I've commonly heard. I can share a couple of those.
Absolutely.
So this was the one change in scoring from last year. So the facility that did win last year from Connecticut, that facility has to take a timeout for 1 year. So they will not be in the competition this year. It kind of opens it up. However, facilities that have won in the past can submit again. So you can win more than once. No one has done it yet, but past winners, except for last year's winner, they are allowed to submit. Also, it doesn't have to be a hospital. Last year, one of the runners up was a surgery center in Pennsylvania, in Reading, Pennsylvania. So ambulatory surgery centers, hospitals, in theory, you know, a surgeon's, an outpatient clinic run out of a surgeon's office, all of those are eligible. So please, if you're not sure if your facility is large enough, has enough programs in place, etc., please, you can send me an email and we can discuss that. But don't rule out your facility just because you're not the biggest OR in your state, etc., or the fact you're an ambulatory surgery center. Military facilities have done well in this in the past. And one of our highest scoring facilities last year was the VA Medical Center. So those are some of the common questions we get. As a reminder, there's no mechanism here to put in enclosures, add extra materials. So, you know, a scrapbook of all the great things you've done, newspaper clippings, etc. You'll have to figure out a way to explain that in a narrative, because there's no way to put in extra attachments like a PDF scan of a photo. There's no mechanism for that. Have you seen any questions come in?
It does not look like it. We must have covered it all because we don't have any questions coming in.
All right, so at that, thank you all for attending, and if you have any questions, my email, let's go back to that. Here's my email. Please send me an email. I'd be glad to help you with your application, answer any questions, etc., help you with that calculation. But please let us know. Thank you so much for your interest. And Kristen, when do you anticipate we'll have the recording up?
We'll have it up by the end of the week. So
okay,
just a couple short dates here.
Do they have the ability to download the slides, or they just have to copy the information off the screen?
No, we will have them for download as well. Those will be on our SlideShare page, and a link to that will be with the recording on our YouTube.
Okay, so you will have access to our slides. Our information is on there, but as you do your application, my advice is go to the website now and look over all the materials, particularly the scoring rubric. Check that out first, and before you get well into your application, it's a very good first step. First the website, and pay particular attention to the scoring rubric. I think that's it, Kristen.
I think so. Thanks for your help, Ben.
All right, thanks everyone, and have a good night.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.